Welcome to PhD with Women on IT, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD, Positivity Hack Delivered, will be by our guest, Samar Akhmedov.
Hello.
Today's topic, what is the future of voice technology? Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my motto, and empathy is critical when you are building the future of voice technology. Technological advancements have always been in sync with the fast pace of this progressive world, of the new, perhaps even faster. Manpower has significantly decreased and been replaced by machines in almost all aspects of the industry. It's only a matter of time when we realize and figure out how far we've come and developed. We will be tackling the future of voice technology and how it will help companies develop and deploy a conversational-first strategy to create deeper customer relations, as well as powering the next generation digital voice, such as natural language understanding, conversational artificial intelligence, text-to-speech. These are just some of the interesting topics in which our esteemed guest will give his insights to. Sardor is a serial tech entrepreneur and a public speaker who currently holds a position as the COO and managing partner at Jafton and Miss.com and a co-founder of uzbekdiaspora.org. Sardor has changed his career recently, so my bio may not be quite up to date. So let's listen to the latest developments of Sardor's life and career. Where in the world are you today, Sardor?
Yeah, thank you, first of all, Beata, for such a kind introduction. And actually, I'm currently in New Jersey, traveling for business for my main company, which is Jafton.com. And in terms of change that you mentioned, actually, from what you described, everything holds still true. However, I stepped out from being a board member at Uzbek Diaspora. I'm still a co-founder, but I just stepped out from the board. I'm no longer participating as an executive board member, and I decided to focus on. We actually have like 5 different brands within me and my partner, and I decided to just focus on one of them, which is our agency, Jafton.com, and I'm the chief operating officer there and the managing partner. So that's what I'm focusing on right now, and we provide consultancy to our business clients, and we do development services as an outsourced company.
Excellent. And what is Drafter.com doing?
Yeah, so currently we're working with around 7 to 8 clients, which most of them are startups, some of them are government agencies. And we help with, we basically position ourselves as a consultancy agency. However, it's a one-stop shop for startups when they're building a technology business, right? Let's say you're a first-time founder, you come to us and you want us to help with founding your company as a technology product. So we bring in our expertise in terms of how to launch the product, how to bring it to the market, and also we develop the product for you. So to give an example, one of our clients is currently building a project called Rogo, which is a similar project to Airbnb and Uber, but it's for everyday items. Like, let's say you want to host an event and you need a camera. So instead of buying that camera, you can rent it out from your neighbors that are around you. So it's a peer-to-peer platform, right? So that client, for example, came to us and they did not know where to start. So we consulted them on that, and we actually are building the technology for them and helping them launch this company. So that's what Jafton.com does, and that's what I'm focusing on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We've got first comments and questions. So we've got Marianne joining us tonight. Marianne is asking, hi, Sam and Beata. What should I do for a voice technology to understand my accent? Thank you.
That's a very interesting question, actually. So, my expertise and a lot of my enthusiasm holds in the voice technology, and we actually develop voice products for our clients as well. To answer that question, it's something that currently probably teams at Alexa, Amazon Alexa, and Google Voice are working at. However, so far I've only seen variations of English. If we're talking about English language, I've only seen variations of Indian English and British and Australian English. So I'm not sure where you're at exactly, but I'm sure that the team at Alexa and Google are working on like understanding more accents, I guess. However, what I would advise is, while they're working at it, it's never it never hurts to work on your own, I guess, pronunciation, and try to improve it. So if Alexa or Google Home are not understanding your accent, try to improve it. Try to make it, more, I guess, sound more understandable. So I guess it comes from both sides, from technology and from the person themselves.
Well, I can't help but think about my friend who's got kids, and they tested Alexa through various, pooping sounds and so on. And I wonder what is that voice technology really recognizing, because there are so much data and so much rubbish coming in. Is it managing all that data? Is it going to actually divert into that word and really grasp the core of what the speech technology is about?
Right. Yeah. So that's actually an interesting thing. So currently, it specializes on the NLP, right, the natural language processing. However, in terms of recognizing other sounds, I do not think they're focusing on that right now. But like you said, it's collecting a lot of data, right? So what's exciting about this is that what we're seeing right now with the voice technology and how these devices are processing our NLP, natural language processing, and our conversations is very, very basic, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? However, what they have with all this data that they have been collecting for years and years, the level of technology that they're testing internally is much more advanced. And at one of the Google's presentation, they actually revealed that in 2018, how advanced this technology has gotten. And it was actually able to sustain a human conversation with a human voice with another human that had no idea it was basically an AI talking to them, right? And that was at the Google I/O presentation in 2018. Since then, they still have not published that version of the AI. I guess they might be afraid of how advanced it is, and they're kind of afraid to test it out. So at the current stage, it does not recognize anything except like the queries that have been put up and that are basic. However, internally, I'm sure they have that artificial intelligence, which pretty much processes information, actually even at the better level than a human.
Well, let's hope so. Fingers crossed. I know that Olga is keen to ask a couple of questions. She's with us tonight. Great to see Women on IT back with PhD. Where are we all today? Well, Olga, just last week I was in sunny Malta, and today I landed 18 degrees plus, and Google said it still feels 18 degrees. For me, it felt 8 degrees, like winter. So I think artificial intelligence got it wrong for me. So let's go to Olga's question. Gosh, how different is being a one-stop shop for startups and working with government agencies? That's a tricky one. How is it for you, Sarmar?
Yeah, so it's also a very interesting question. Actually, I prefer working with startups because I come from a startup background myself, and there's a lot of room for flexibility. However, they both, like, the both clientele has its own advantages. And with the government agencies, the great thing is they usually have a set budget and set requirements, so they know exactly what they want. They come with the set requirements and they don't change that. So we just stick to the plan, get it done on time, and they're happy, they pay us, and that's it, right? However, it's not really that interesting, as opposed to working with startups where we actually get involved and like we consult them on, like, here's another feature that you can come up with. For example, with one of the startups we're working on right now, it's a photo sharing app, and I can't reveal too many details. However, one of the features that I actually suggested was around AI, and we basically came up with an idea for them to add something that would basically combine group photos. You know how when you take a group photo, there's always someone that doesn't look good. So the AI that we're building right now is going to actually combine multiple photos that you took as a group and recognize which one of them has yourself, where you're looking good, your face is, you're not blinking, you're not like, you don't have a funny face, and it combines it into one picture where everybody looks good. So that's super exciting, and that's something that we suggested that startup do, and we're working on it. And you don't really have that kind of flexibility with government agencies. However, what we're building for government agencies is mostly around telemedicine. That's our one of our expertise as well. And we're actually building something for the state of New Mexico right now that is around voice technology, and it's about like elderly people being able to, instead of typing, provide basically receive medical help through voice without video conferencing or texting, through just like natural language processing with a mix of AI and a human. So it's very different things.
Mm. What about, we are talking about altering your pictures. What about altering your voice? Is it going to be used by the bats? I mean, by
It's going to be abused.
pretending to be somebody
Yeah.
else?
So that's something that I'm super excited about, where you're going to be able to basically, how different social media platforms are emerging on top of voice, one of them being the famous Clubhouse, right? And there's going to be a lot of other social media platforms that are going to emerge on voice. And one of the things that people are really going to want to do is, it's a very common thing that people are irritated by their own voice, right? When they hear their own voice. So and it would be super cool to basically be able to purchase or like rent out somebody's, like a celebrity's voice, right? And be able to talk and post something like a voice memo with somebody else's voice. However, like you raised a really big concern there, which is, are people going to abuse it? Are people going to, really pretend to be somebody else, right? So that is a concern, which is why it still has not become mainstream. The technology for that actually exists. There was this one company called Lyrebird, which invented that technology. It was still not perfect, but it was pretty good. I was able to speak with Obama's voice and say whatever I want. You could tell it was not real Obama, but it was very, very close. However, that technology got acquired by another company, which is actually in the podcast space, called, I don't remember it's a podcast editing tool, basically. It's a very big company. Can't remember their name, but basically they acquired that technology, and they're now letting it. Basically, they're letting podcasters turn their text into voice, but only for their own voice. They're not actually allowing you to speak with anyone's voice. So I think it's still a non-solved problem, right, in the industry, which is what makes this industry so exciting, is that there's still these problems, like you brought up a really good one, that is not solved. Like, if we have this technology invented and it's really working well, how do we make sure it's going to be used in an ethical way, right? And I think one of the ways that we can make sure that it is used ethically is by combining maybe a blockchain technology. That's like one of the proposed solutions right now, to verify if the person on the other end is actually the real person speaking, or it's them basically using that filter. You know how when you use a filter on Instagram, it actually shows that you're using a filter, so people can tell that whatever filter you're using, no matter how realistic it is, it's actually a filter. So I think we're going to have regulations around this that are going to give that precaution to people that are actually, before you basically speak with somebody else's voice, there's going to be probably a robot giving that disclaimer that this voice is actually not that real person speaking, if that makes sense. So I think and that can be verified on a blockchain, and that's just one of the propose solutions that I think is probably going to happen, but it is still a not solved problem.
Well, that's a perfect way to segue to Ika Spagio question. Hello, Sam. What do you think is the biggest challenge in voice technology at the present time? And before you answer, I would like to tell you a story. When I was little, and I think, my generation did that. Just hold on a second. We used to have something like that, and that
I
thing
remember these two.
was I was able to go with that thing with a bit of something over my speaker, and I could pretend to be some guy somewhere in the atmosphere, and I could actually pretend, calling my grandma, and I could fool her. So we all did pranks like that. So I wonder, what are the real kind of, not really pranks, because these were kind of innocent, but I can think of a couple of ways of how to fool, because I can call my bank and remembering majority of my data. If somebody listens to my phone calls, they can work out what is the first, second, third password, letter of the password. And combining all of these, there is a danger of somebody using my data and hacking my money.
Yeah, totally. It's actually very, this is actually a very big concern as well. It's one of the scenarios where this can go really, really wrong, right? Like I said, it can be abused. This can be used through words, pretending to be somebody and stealing their data, right? However, if you compare it to how this verification process works right now, is that believe it or not, so I'll tell you another story. Like when my mom, she does not live in the United States. She lives in Uzbekistan, but however she visits here. And when she came last 3 years ago, we opened her a bank account here. And so there was one problem after she left. I think her account got blocked or something. So I had to call the bank, right? And she doesn't speak English. So, and I didn't have my sister with me, so I had to actually pretend to speak with a female voice on her behalf. It was for the good. But it's still so funny because while I was speaking, my friend came into the room and they were so confused why I'm speaking with a female voice. But
now you've got to give us a teaser of that. You got to show us what it sounded like.
I wish I recorded it because that was so funny. But the story is that it actually worked out. They actually took me as my mom, just because I was pretending to have a female voice, and so there was no way to verify it was actually my mom, right? So, and with that startup that I mentioned before, Learbird, they actually invented, at least they claim to have invented the technology, where even if you record somebody's voice and you play it, the AI is going to tell that it's not the real-time speech, even if it's that person's real voice. So that's where the AI comes in, actually, where I think AI is going to be given this task to actually, regulate this and be able to analyze somebody's voice if they're pretending to be somebody else or if they're actually that person. So and the computer's processing power is actually much more powerful than a human's, right? So given that we task the AI with the right task and the right, we give them the right intentions, AI is going to get to the point, well, it's almost at the point where, we're not going to be able to completely comprehend how it's doing it, but it's going to do its job well, and it's going to be able to tell if you're actually abusing it or if it's a realistic case where somebody's actually, doing what they're supposed to do. So that's still a challenge to address the question that came in. It's something that's being solved, which is, like I said, it's what makes this industry so exciting, where there's so many untackled problems like this one. But that's where the AI comes in, and given that we give it the right intentions, it's going to solve these problems.
Well, I think it's going to be a combination of all three. Not only your picture, not only your eye that is blinking, not only your finger that is touching the phone or whichever device you're using to connect, but also your voice. And that way we might be able to discern whether it's a real person or somebody else, because we know about this story in China where somebody murdered a girlfriend and then was trying to get a loan on her account, and then AI came in to help and said that really she's not blinking with her eyes, even
Hmm.
though everything else worked. That the fact
Hmm.
that
You see?
her eyes were not blinking was the factor that really stopped the guy, the villain, from getting the loan.
China is really ahead in terms of technology, as opposed to the US. The US, it would have worked. Like, because I still wonder how, like, the US seems to be such a technologically advanced country, but it's still so much behind in terms of technology and things like that, as opposed to China.
There
But
you
yeah,
go.
and I agree. I agree. It is a combination of everything. It's going to be not just voice, but all the biometrics. Your Face ID, your Touch ID, your Voice IDs, and other things. That's actually what with one of the things that's going to emerge. Probably, I still get annoyed when I tell Siri to open a certain app and it says you have to unlock your phone first, and I have to show my face. I'm like, why can't you just recognize my voice? I guess it's going to be a combination of that, and Voice ID is going to be the next like unlocking biometric type for these devices.
Fantastic. Sarmar, I would love to delve into more details, but we've got a lot of questions from our
Sure. Yeah, let's
community.
go by
For
questions. Keep it short.
for some reason, it's lots of females, and I know of somebody who's been really interested in your presence. So the questions are not really whether you're single or not, but let's go into some of the details. Hello, Sam. Princess Tani is asking, what are the obstacles you have faced in launching business from scratch?
Yeah. So that's actually something. Well, if we're talking about my current business, it's actually something that I did not launch exactly from scratch. So I actually came into this business as I was working at a business development position here for my mentor, and then I became a shareholder and a partner in the company that he started. But I can say that I basically, I came in at the very beginning, so I helped develop the company from scratch, which is why I became the partner, right? But to address the obstacles, if I talk generally towards the businesses that I've launched from scratch and the ones that I joined as a partner, the first few years are always the most difficult. Uh, like if I remember the restaurant that we started, with my sister back in 2017, 2018, um, it took us a very long time to realize that, the restaurant actually was not profitable and it's not going to turn profit anytime soon, and we actually have to close it down. So there was this emotional attachment towards the business because we were like, well, it's our baby, we don't want to close it down. But then when we did the proper objective analysis, I actually had to step in because it was especially because my sister initiated the business. She was very like emotionally attached to it. It was hard to accept the fact that we have to close it. However, when we did the analysis and like we realized that actually we have two businesses within that business. We had the catering business, which was profitable, and we had the restaurant itself, which was not profitable. So we closed down the restaurant and we pivoted towards just doing the catering, and that's when the business became profitable. So the challenge, one of the challenges, is that you don't have to be emotionally attached to the business, and you have to keep it super objective, and always run numbers. Always run numbers, even if your overall company is profitable, you may have certain parts of your business that are not profitable. Oh, to give you another example, something that we realized recently is that in our software development company, uh, we used to do basically any type of software, right? Whatever clients ask, we do it because we had the capability. However, recently, like literally 2 or 3 weeks ago, uh, I paid attention to numbers and I saw that we have like one of our services, which is a web development, was actually very, like, it was bringing very little profits, right? And the time to actually bring that service was equal to the other services that was more profitable. So we decided to shut down that service completely. so we're no longer offering web development, and we completely focusing on app development, right? So that was something that was, again, by running the numbers and giving the objective analysis, we were able to decide on that. So always analyze your business. That's one of the challenges, and don't be emotionally attached. I guess that's something off the top of my head that I can think of, the problems that I have encountered before.
Brilliant. Olga is asking similar question. She's actually talking about my 18 degrees obstacle, and now she's saying, so do you have a particular methodology for developing these startups, or is it a mix of approaches, Sarmer?
Yeah, so for developing startups, I guess you mean for our clients. So it all comes down to who the client is, and like I said, most of our clients are first-time founders, right? So it's for them, they come either from a non-business background or from a very traditional business background, so they have no idea about the technology, right? And but we always look at the level of their understanding of technology and the level of openness that they have, because some clients are very open towards suggestions. They're like, tell me what I should do. I trust you. You're the technology expert. However, some clients are very stubborn and they're like, I know what to do. Just do what I say. So that's where our approach is changing. So it's not one size fits all. This is why consultancy business is very difficult, because you deal with people, and people are all different. We have so many different clients. There are female, male clients. There are people that are super experienced in business, and they've run multi-million-dollar companies, and there are people who come from corporate jobs, and they have a different mentality. So it's super different approaches. However, in terms of development, we have set standards that is pretty much, that's something that we do not change, right? In terms of how we develop those actual products. So we have a technical team. We have around 50 people working for us, and we have one basically big manager that's a tech lead that looks over that team, and then we have a project manager dedicated for each project. And on top of that, for each project, we allocate a certain designer, a certain developer, and so that's our method that pretty much does not change. But the consultancy part, it does change depending on the background of the client.
Do you choose the startups you're working with, or is it any startup that is coming your way?
Yeah, so we actually, yes, we do choose, because we are we're not too big and we're not too small. We're, like I said, we have around 50 people working for us in 5 countries. We are still a boutique agency. We still, myself and my partner, we get involved with every project individually, and we give, like the other day, like 2 weeks ago, we were taking out our client on a dinner, to give that personal, basically, it's a relationship building. They've been working with us for 3 months, and they're about to launch their product. But to kind of answer that question, I think I got sidetracked. Could you actually repeat the question?
The question was, do you cherry pick your clients, or is it any technology you're working with?
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, we've now narrowed down to focus solely on mobile development, and in that mobile development, we actually do not choose an industry. However, we have our favorites, right? We have industries where we are more expert than the others. So like voice technology being the first one of them, but we also have a big expertise in the transportation industry, in the medical industry, and in the government sector, right? So those are our favorites, and because we have most expertise in that. However, if we, for example, like right now, we're starting a project in the gaming industry, and we have never worked in the gaming industry, but we are planning to work with this client regardless, because it's a new challenge. It's a new industry that we're going to learn. So very rarely do we turn down clients. It's only when we're actually not able to provide that service. But even if it's the industry that we have never worked with, we still challenge ourselves to learn more about that project and the industry. And that's another thing that's sort of an advantage to our industry, is because we get to learn from all these people about the projects that they're doing, because how did we become experts in medical industry? Because we worked with a doctor who was building a telemedicine project, and so on. So we choose to a certain extent, but it's a wide range of clients.
Well, let's go back to the beginning, the basics. We are talking about voice technology, and
Yeah.
Trixie Lopez is reflecting on. I saw a lot of videos where pro hackers use voice technology to mess up with scammers online. Have you seen one? And was there anything that made you think, "Wow, that's quite advanced, Sarmor"?
Yeah, I think I've seen one where I think it was Elon Musk joining somebody's Zoom session, and it was just at the beginning of the pandemic when Zoom, thing just started like crazy, and I think it was deep tech technology that they used to, how the before Zoom actually became cautious about all the passwords and everything, you were able to join anybody's meeting, and people still did not know how to lock their meetings. They would post the links to their Zooms. I think this is the one that Trixie's talking about. Maybe one of them. There was a lot of Zoom bombing. They called it Zoom bombing when they would join in and they would mess up the meeting. And so one
Yep.
guy was actually very creative, and he he put on Elon Musk's face, and it was super realistic. And and people were shocked, like, you're sitting at a meeting. Imagine now Elon Musk joins in and he starts basically participating in the meeting. But yeah, that's something that was happening, but I think people are more tech savvy right now to protect themselves from that.
Mm. When we are talking about meetings, I have to say that what was interesting at the beginning of Clubhouse, because it was such a new developing technology, everybody was on Clubhouse, and everyone with Android was missing out. And I was one of these people who
Yeah.
heard about Elon Musk jumping into the
Oh
call,
yeah.
and Gary V jumping into another call, and somehow I think we no longer experience the hype that Clubhouse used to have. What is your take on that story?
Yeah, so yeah, Clubhouse was a very big hit at the beginning, right? And I heard from it, about it from the very beginning in 2019 when they started working on it. I've been following them before they became a big thing, I guess. But I did not have an invite back then because it was for very elite. But Clubhouse did not die out, as people were kind of predicting, because it is fundamentally, it makes sense. It totally makes. I've been talking about social media platforms on voice for almost 10 years now, ever since I was a teenager. I knew that this makes sense. However, yeah, its popularity did go down as opposed to what it was in the beginning, but it is here to stay, I believe. But they have to innovate. Because everybody basically copied Clubhouse right now. Everyone. Like Slack has it, Spotify has it, Instagram is launching it. So to stay in business, I think they have to innovate, and I think what they have to launch is not just the live calls, but a feed. I think that's when the social media, whoever does this first and does it on scale, is going to win this game, because the feed makes more sense than a live conversation. Because how long can you stay in a live conversation? But imagine something like Twitter, but on voice, where you can post these audio messages. And a lot of companies try to do that, but they were never able to do that on scale. So somebody who has the scale like Facebook and Clubhouse, whoever does that first is going to win this game. And Twitter is trying to do it now, but they're not succeeding because they're still focused on the text versus voice. This platform has to be focused on voice. And whoever does a solely voice focused platform with voice messages is going to win this game.
So you wouldn't consider being a competitor and innovating in that field?
I would love to. I would love to. However, like I said, one thing that I recently realized is that I was actually working on something like that last year, since 2019. But because it was, a side project, it actually never, took off, because I have my main business here, the consultancy, and I can't just leave this business, right? So my goal is I still have a dream of actually becoming a competitor. You hit it right at one point, but I have to take this company to a logical end. And we are actually in talks right now to sell our company, because we got approached by $1 billion company that wants to acquire our company. So once that happens, probably that's when I'm going to go into a new venture. But I decided to not multitask at all, because it does not work out. I had a few projects started out at the same time and kind of was doing it on the side. I thought, the side projects are fine. But have you ever heard of a big company that was started as a side project? I barely did. So it's always, to be successful, you have to focus on one thing at a time. But to directly answer that question, yes, I will launch something in the voice space that will be big.
Fingers crossed. We've got a question from Olga. How important has your mentor been in your career, and what makes a great mentor?
Oh, that's my favorite question. So yeah, like I said, the way I entered the tech business was actually through my mentor. So we met 4 years ago, and at the time I was working on some e-commerce project, and I watched his interview, and he was an angel investor that I knew, and so I came to him. I got introduced, and I came to him with like just pitching my project, right? But that did not work out. He did not invest, but we basically started working. He started mentoring me. So to answer that directly, he's been super essential towards my career in IT and technology, and entering as a technology entrepreneur. It's actually a very, smart move, and something that I've been well, it's kind of on the surface, that you should have a mentor, but a lot of people struggle to find the right mentor. So I was very much lucky and blessed to have found the right mentor at the right time so early, because I was 19 when I met him, right? And what makes a great mentor is actually the ability to trust your mentee, I think, which is what I admire in Babir and my mentor, and he's currently my business partner, is that he always trusted, he always knows how to delegate, and he never micromanages. He guides you, he tells you what's the right thing to do, but he never insists. Even when I was doing certain things that was obviously a mistake, he would sometimes even let me do that mistake so I can just see that for myself, because he would know that if he tells me not to do it, I will keep thinking that, oh, maybe I should have done it, maybe I should have done it. So that I think what makes a great mentor is the ability to trust your mentee and not micromanage them, and to just navigate them in the right way, but not just like hold their hands and walk them. That's, I think, what makes a great mentor.
And also be able to say no. For example, if somebody wants to go sideways and use technology for bad, right?
Of course, yeah. That's you have to be always cautious of that.
Absolutely. Well, we've seen it in blockchain technologies, cryptocurrencies, and as we have experienced some people using phone to prank people, for example. Let's go into Zia Lim's question. Is there any disadvantage on voice technology? Is there something we need to be aware of or even be afraid of when it comes to voice technology?
Yeah. So again, yeah, coming back to that, I guess the fear of this AI being abused. That's something that I think we have to be cautious about. And you can go and actually watch Elon Musk's speeches on the downsides of AI and how it could take over. But to specifically answer about the voice technology, well, aside from really abusing that to I guess falsify your identity, can think of other disadvantages or threats, potential threats. Maybe Beata can help me with something here to come up with an idea, but I don't see a disadvantage here. But something to be aware of is just that the next customer representative that you're talking to might be an AI when you call Apple. So I guess that's something that you can be aware of. But that's a good thing, because if the AI is solving my problem faster than a human, then why not? It's just that, we as, I guess, humans have to be aware of, especially the conversational AI replacing our jobs. but it's not something that we should completely be afraid of. It may happen faster than the last, I guess, when in the 17th century, or when was the last from like the revolution when actually technology was threatening the labor. This time it's going to happen faster. However, as long as you're working on yourself and developing, it's just going to be I guess, a natural selection in a way, that it's going to force people to either improve themselves and become more knowledgeable and more useful as a workforce, and try always not to be replaced by the AI. So that's something to be aware of. However, I see more advantages than these disadvantages here.
Fantastic. I truly believe that technology is to serve people, although I cannot ignore the fact that some people, for example, who are suffering stroke, all of a sudden cannot use voice technology because they suffered stroke and and their voice is altered or whatever happened. And so there are instances when voice technology is not enabling some of the society, or kind of is not open to everybody. And so that would be probably a very big obstacle, because as you said, you can practice your speech, you can practice your accent, but sometimes it's just impossible, right?
Totally, totally. Yes, it's something to be aware of as well.
Mm. So
Yes.
we have, when I think about voice technology, we have great websites. Especially governments are building these websites that are open to everybody, people with various disabilities, whether it's voice disability, whether it's hearing, reading, and whatever disabilities there are. Is there any way that voice technology is helping people with disabilities? Can you think of some examples?
Totally, yeah. It's actually yesterday I was trying to read an article on Forbes that was very interesting, but there's this term called TLDR, which is too long to read, right? And it's something that people are more and more inclined to not read a long article. So even if I'm not, I don't have any disabilities or challenges, I saw that Forbes already has installed this widget, which instead of you reading the article, it basically turns it into a voice article. So it turns that written article into basically a podcast, right? Uh, so that is a big help, because actually I have a friend who her brother basically is the founder of Speechify. I don't know if you heard of Speechify, but it's basically it's that technology that turns the article into a podcast, but it's
Mhm.
directed towards dyslexic people and people with actually disabilities and challenges in visual impairment or other disabilities that prevent them from being able to read. And the founder, actually, her brother is actually is dyslexic himself, which is why he invented that basically for himself. But the way that his technology does it is it's super advanced, and it reads it almost in a human voice, like, and you can literally just take a picture of a book, a page in a book, and it will turn it into a podcast and it reads it for you. So that's a super useful case there, turning text into speech. And if it's done right, because yesterday when I was listening to Forbes, I was kind of disappointed because it was super robotic voice. But it's somewhere to start. I think if they use technologies like Speechify and other really good startups that are working to make it more natural, uh, it's going to become really mainstream. And not only it's going to just help lazy people like myself to not read and listen, but also to especially help the people with disabilities who have challenges reading themselves.
Great, fantastic examples. Thank you, Sam. We've got In Love and in Pain, we have not seen for quite a while, and it's a very big question. Great to see you, Sam, in PhD. Do you think voice technology can also help in international relations to avoid conflict?
Ooh. So okay, that's very much outside of my domain of expertise, international relations and politics. But the sky's the limit here. Again, this is at the very beginning stage. Can't think of a particular use case where this could help avoid international relations or avoid conflict. Maybe by duplicating yourself as an AI, and instead of flying in for negotiations, you could have the AI carry out the negotiations for you to avoid that conflict and be a diplomat. Or maybe you could like feed the AI version of yourself with different books that help you avoid conflicts, and try to put your virtual self into conversation with other, I guess, politicians or representatives to carry out that conversation better. Maybe that's a use case, and I think that's going to happen as well, because I'm a big fan of Black Mirror, which it's a very dark show, but it shows all the potential capabilities of the AI. And one of the episodes, it actually shows how you can actually duplicate yourself. A virtual clone is actually another thing. It's more just way beyond just the voice technology. It's more like just the complete AI, advanced AI. But that's something maybe that can potentially be used, like cloning yourself and creating a more diplomatic version of your cell phone voice. It's going to help avoid conflict.
Well, it's almost like inside the actor's studio, we can run different scenarios with, and today's in Afghanistan, we are going to enjoy. Or we can think about, Donald Trump and softening his way of speaking.
Well, that'd be a great use case, yeah.
Absolutely. And we can
Creating a more diplomatic version of Trump would be great.
Absolutely. Or Trump reading fairy tales to bed. I'm sure it can happen with voice technology. We are coming closer and closer to the end of our show. That's been very, very interesting, Sarmer, to speak to you and listen to all these voices. I wanted to ask you a perverse question, because you praised China and Chinese technology so much. Why didn't you choose East versus West? Because it's much closer, I think, to your home country.
Yeah,
Uzbekistan is much closer to China than US.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've actually been in China 4 years ago, and yeah, that was pretty much the only thing I liked about China, the technological advancements. However, there's a lot of other things that I did not like about this country, especially the human rights structure, and like the country being communistic. And I don't want to get too political, but that's something. The U.S. reflects my values and my, I guess, points of view as an entrepreneur in the best way. I don't think there's any other country that is more entrepreneurial and more capitalistic than the United States. And I think for an entrepreneur, it is the perfect place to be at. And because I've lived here for 7 years, it's just somewhere that I feel the most comfortable in. But I never rule out the possibility that I may, at one point, back in college, I was actually trying to take a semester abroad in China, in Shanghai, especially. I love Shanghai. But in terms of just living there permanently, I can't imagine myself there because of my kind of values conflicting with that country's values.
Thank you. That's very honest answer. Appreciate it. We've got In Love and in Pain thanking us, and we've got Mike Velasco is asking a question. Let's dive into this question. What are the most successful media projects you've seen on voice control devices, and from a business perspective?
Oh, that's a great one. So yeah, as a lot of people might know or not know, Alexa and Google Home are actually right now the most dominant platforms for voice technology, right? Think of it as iOS versus Android. So again, but this time Apple has kind of been late to the party with their Siri. So Amazon is dominating the space this time. So Amazon, just like iOS, they have their own like app store, sort of like where you can install different skills for Alexa, right? Those are like apps. And this industry is at the very early stage, just like the App Store was 10 years ago. So if we go back to 2011, 2010, there were so many opportunities to create multi-billion-dollar companies on top of the this app store, right? So the same happening right now, but 10 years ago, there were no multi-billion-dollar companies yet. So right now, there aren't super successful projects, but the ones that I can kind of highlight, uh, the skills that are more or less successful and I see potential in as are the ones that Alexa and Amazon created themselves, which is coming back to that topic of the different voices. I think you can buy Samuel Jackson's voice on Alexa, and that one's super popular. You pay $5, and you can basically have your Alexa speak with a celebrity voice. I think that one was, from a business standpoint, very profitable as well. And I think they're going to keep developing celebrity voices. But from other projects, off the top of my head, there are a lot of successful like mini podcasts that have launched exclusively on Alexa. One of them is ran by my friend Daniel, who runs Instagram Stories podcast. Basically, he gives 5-minute updates about Instagram news every day on Alexa, and he has amassed a pretty big audience with that too. So I think those are the ones that are off the top of my head have been. Oh, and there are games too. There are games that are on audio. You can basically play like old games from the 80s that were text-based. You can play them on Alexa, be like, Alexa, turn left, Alexa, turn right, and then she basically tells you how you're doing in the game. Those become really popular as well. But it's still very early. There is no multi-billion-dollar company that has emerged on top of voice yet on these devices, but there will be. So yeah, that's, I think, hopefully answers the question.
And there is your company that you are going to launch, and it's
Yes.
going to be the one, the unicorn, I hope. So I hope you're going to intro us these great people, because we are looking for great speakers for our show, Positivity Hack Delivered. But before we dive into the last questions, I would like to ask you, what would be your advice to other female mentors or startup founders, how to advance your career from a male perspective, or maybe from watching how are these females performing? What would be your advice?
Yep. So we actually have our probably 30% of our clients are female founders. And one of them actually, which I gave an example, the platform called Rogo, where they're creating this peer-to-peer platform for everyday item rentals. She's a solo founder. She's a female founder, first-time founder, who has quit her job at a corporate company, and she had a really good position as the head of HR or something. And I really admire her, because she actually came to us in 2019 and she started talking to us, and it took her almost a year to quit her job, to finally decide to quit her job and pursue this as a full-time startup. So that's been very, like, I seen in this founder, in this female founder, something that I don't see in male founders, this bravery. Because a lot of our projects, like I said, clients, they have a day job and they don't quit their job for the security. And I understand why. I'm not judging, but I very rarely seen even male founders do that, to quit their job completely and focus on their startup. But she's been doing great so far. It's been 3 months since we started the project, and she raised her 4th round of capital right now, 4th investor on board. And it's been amazing watching her grow, because she had no experience in technology before. So my advice to female founders is that actually, like, take this as an inspiration. There's no limits right now. I think it's the best time to raise capital, to start companies, and be brave, because there's so much money fluctuating in the system as well. The US government has, I think they've put out extra $10 trillion ever since the pandemic started in the system. And think about the magnitude of that money. It's in the system right now. And so there's a lot of money being invested in startups. And there's a lot of opportunity, because a lot of great companies actually started during a crisis. Like past crisis, 2008, we've seen Airbnb, Groupon, and other companies. And back then, not a lot of them were founded by female founders, but right now, there's less of that discrimination, if you call it, or I guess the unfairness towards female. There still is, there are still people, of course, that favor male founders versus female founders, but it is less and less happening. And the worst thing you can do to yourself is to set that boundary up in your mind and think that, hey, I'm a female founder, it's going to be difficult. I'm a female founder, it's going to be difficult. No, there are more tolerant people that I know towards that have no problem with you being a female founder, than there are that do have that problem, at least within my network. So I'd say right now is a great time for anyone to start a company, but especially for female founders. I think there's never been a better time.
Sardar, kudos to that, and amen to that. Definitely bravery is something that we need to remember about. And I just wanted to ask, what is the startup? We need to follow her.
Yes, go on, and I hope Vlada will forgive me. I think she is public about it, so this is why I'm kind of giving away all these details. But go on rogorent.com. It's ROGORENT.com, and you can check out. It's still not live, so don't try to download the app. It's not live yet, but we are working on this app. We're building this app for her, but you can watch her journey on Instagram. If you follow her on Instagram, it's, I think, Vladlena de France is her Instagram. But through that website, you can do your research. You can look her up. I think she's going to succeed, and it's great just watching somebody from ground up, just build that company.
Fabulous. We love that story, Sardar. Thank you so much. What would you say is your life lesson quote? Maybe you said great quotes here. Bravery is the right way to go. But what would you say is your life lesson quote at the moment, or maybe overall?
So I guess every year I have some big realization which hits me, and I think, wow, how did I not know this before? How did I live my life without this realization? And I guess that's a great thing. So last year, what hit me was that I have to systemize my life and live by my habits. And I was even going to get a tattoo that says systems. I'm still wanting to do that, but that was the big lesson last year. But this year's lesson, I think, for me has been the word focus. That I realized I've been so much all over the place, running a nonprofit, organizing charity dinners, networking events, aside from my main business, and running a few other small startups on the side. But it's better to do one thing at a time and do it really, really well and be super expert in that company and really make it succeed and reinvest back into that company and grow it until you reach that pinnacle and you either exit that and you basically make a logical conclusion. So the quote here is, I think, in one word, it's focus. Focus. I really even want to down the road one day, I want to write a book about this, because it's impacted my career so much. Ever since I started really focusing on one thing at a time, like our company has been doubling in revenue almost every 2-3 months. So it's one thing that I think is, if you ask me for a quote, I think I would just say one word: focus.
Fabulous. Let's focus on our final question of our show, which is: imagine the pandemic is over and you can invite any person in the world, anywhere in the world. Who would you invite, and where would you go to have that private breakfast face to face?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So I always fluctuate between Elon Musk and Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm still waiting for. I've applied for Gary Vaynerchuk's. He's like my virtual mentor scholarship to meet him. So if I win, I may still meet him. So it may not be just an imagination, but I'm sure I will meet him one day and become friends. But I would take probably Elon Musk if I could choose, because he's just something else. It may sound cheesy, but I'm like one of the top fans of Elon Musk, even before he became that household name, even before Tesla was a household name. Like, I've been following this guy for years and years, reading all his books, and I'm just the biggest fan of Elon Musk, and I would take him for breakfast if possible.
And where would you go with him?
With Elon Musk, I don't care, like, honestly, but as long as it's him, I could I could be in the worst restaurant in the world, but I'd probably, I don't know, grab a pizza with him, and just chat and chat and chat, or if it's breakfast, then well, I have a favorite place in Miami for breakfast called Kiki on the River. That'd be great, a great place with a great person. So yeah, probably that place.
Bravo! Fingers crossed for that as well, Sarm. So thank you so much. It's the end of our show, and I would like to thank you very much, Marian Madera, Olga Vasina, Aika Pagio, Princess Tani, Trixie Lopez, Zia Lim, In Love and in Pain, and Mike Velasco for your contribution, brilliant questions, and always keeping us our discussion alive. Let's stay focusing on positive. As our guest said, he needs to focus, we need to focus, and when you focus on the positives get more positive. As always, our positivity quote comes from Positive Thinking Only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look a little harder. Today is your day to hack the future, hack the positivity you want. Sardar, thank you so much for today's discussion about voice technology, startups, and female founders. I'm looking forward to meeting you again with your new billion-dollar company, unicorn in the universe of voice technology, whatever it might be. And thank you so much for our lovely audience who participate and ask questions. Have a good day and
Thank you
see
so
you in
much,
the
Beata.
future.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.